Senate will come to order. Members, please stand for the prayer. Today we will pause for a moment of silent prayer and reflection, and following that time, please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. The Secretary will take the roll.
Senators Abler, Anderson, Bach, Benson, Bigham, Carlson, Chamberlain, Champion, Clausen, Coleman, Swazinski, Dames, Dibble, Dornick, Draheim, Duckworth, Dietzick, Eaton, Eichhorn, Eakin, Fateh, Franzen, Friends, Gazelka, Goggin, Herr, Hoffman, Housley, Howe, Ingebrigtsen, Isaacson, Jasinski, Johnson, Johnson, Stewart, Kent, Kiffmeyer, Klein, Coran, Kunish, Lang, Latz, Limmer, Marty, Matthews, McEwen, Miller, Murphy, Nelson, Newman, Newton, Osmic, Pappas, Port, Pratt, Putnam, Rarick, Rest, Rosen, Rude, Senjum, Tomasoni, Torres-Ray, Utke, Weber, Westrom, Uyghur, Wickland.
A quorum is present. Pursuant to Rule 14.1, the following members intend to vote under Rule 40.7. Senators Anderson, Carlson, Clausen, Coleman, Dibble, Dietzick, Eaton, Fateh, Ingebrigtsen, Isaacson, Kunesh, Lang, Latz, Marty, Matthews, Nelson, Newton, Pappas, Senjum, Torsway, Westrom, and Wickland. We will begin on the agenda with the third order of business, messages from the House. The Secretary will read the message.
Mr. President, I have the honor to announce the adoption by the House of the following House Concurrent Resolution herewith transmitted. House Concurrent Resolution number 4, a concurrent resolution adopting deadlines for the 2021 regular session. Patrick D. Murphy, Chief Clerk, House of Representatives.
Senator Gazelka.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the House Concurrent Resolution number 4 be laid on the table.
On that motion, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say no. The motion prevails. The Secretary will read the next message.
Mr. President, I have the honor to announce the passage by the House of the following House file herewith transmitted. House file number 114. Patrick D. Murphy, Chief Clerk, House of Representatives.
There's no action required on that message. The next order of business is the fourth order of business, first reading of House bills. Members, the House files listed in the agenda will be given their first reading and referred as indicated. The next order of business is the fifth order of business, reports of committees. We have one additional report to be read by the Secretary.
Senator Lang from the Committee on Veterans and Military Affairs, Finance and Policy, to which was referred Senate File number 302, a bill for an act relating to transportation, reports the same back with the recommendation that the bill do pass and be re-referred to the Committee on Transportation, Finance and Policy.
Senator Gazelka.
Mr. President, I move that the committee report printed in the agenda and read by the Secretary be adopted.
On that motion, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say no. Motion prevails. We'll move to the sixth order of business, second reading of Senate bills. The Secretary will read the Senate file numbers.
Senate file numbers 419, 354, 193, and 529.
These Senate files are given their second reading. Moving to the 8th order of business, introduction and first reading of Senate bills. Members listed in today's introduction calendar are Senate file numbers 695 to 774, 695 to 774. We have one change on page 5. Senate file number 730 will be referred to the Committee on Civil Law and Data Practices Policy. These Senate files are given their first reading and referred as indicated. Moving to the 9th order of business, motions and resolutions. We have several authors' motions listed in the agenda. We'll take these authors' motions as one motion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say no. Motion prevails. Senator Tomassoni.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that Senate File 588 be withdrawn from the Committee on Taxes and be returned to its author.
Senator Tomassoni, please confirm that this is your bill.
This is my bill, Mr. Chairman. It's a duplicate, so it's unnecessary.
Discussion on the Tomassoni motion. Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Opposed say no. Motion prevails. Senate Resolution number 25 will be referred to the Committee on Rules and Administration. Remaining under motions and resolutions, Senator Gazelka.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the House concurrent resolution number 4 be taken from the table.
On that motion, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say no. Motion prevails. Senator Gazelka.
Mr. President, I move that House concurrent resolution number 4 be adopted. This is the 3 deadlines.
Any discussion on the Gazelka motion? Senator Gazelka moves that the Senate adopt House concurrent resolution number 4. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say no. Motion prevails. Senator Gazelka.
Thank you, Mr. President. Pursuant to Rule 26, I designate the following bill for for special orders for immediate consideration. Members, the sheet is on your desk.
Members, the bill up for consideration is number 12 on general orders, Senate File 475. Senator Draheim.
Thank you, Mr. President. Today we have up Senate File 475. First off, I'd like to thank my co-authors, Senator Rosen, Senator Duckworth, Senator Benson, and Senator Wickland. We've been dealing with the COVID vaccines here in a lot of our committees, and one group that wants to help are the dentists. We have a lot of media reports, members of staff, doctors and nurses being overworked with everything we're dealing with COVID, and the dentists want to help. Right now, dentists administer shots when you go in to see the dentist. They can also administer a flu shot. So what this bill does is just expand from flu shot and add COVID vaccine to it. It also changes the age of the people they can administer a shot for a flu or a COVID vaccine. So it goes from 19 years down to 16 years. This is supported by the American Dental Association and the Minnesota Board of Dentistry. It is already being done in 20 other states, and there are 10 states currently looking to do this exact same thing. So, Mr. President, I urge all members to vote green on this. Thank you.
Discussion on Senate File 475. Senator Rest.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Senator Draheim. I think many of us have heard from dentists in our districts who really want to participate in this program and certainly have the skills and experience to do so. And I join in urging a green vote.
Senator Klein.
Well, thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Senator Draheim and the co-authors for introducing this bill. In particular, thank you from the medical community to our dentist colleagues for participating in this all-hands-on-deck effort. Obviously, at this point, the major difficulty with vaccine administration is vaccine availability, and so it's not necessarily a workforce constraint at this point, but we anticipate at some point that vaccine availability will continue to improve. And at that point, we will need every available hand to administer a vaccine. I'm also very encouraged by the author's change in the age of influenza vaccine administration by dentists from 19 down to 16, which will help us speed up that effort, that annual effort as well. So I thank the author again, and I encourage a green vote.
Additional discussion on Senate File 475. The Secretary give the bill its third reading.
Senate File Number 475, a bill for an act relating to health.
Third reading. Any final discussion on the bill? Members, we're on final passage of Senate File 475. Seeing no further discussion, the Secretary will take the roll. Members in the retiring room, please come to the chamber to vote. Retiring room. Members in room 303, please come to the chamber to vote. And members in the President's office, please come to the chamber to vote. Members in room 237, please come to the chamber to vote, and members in room 206, please come to the chamber to vote. I'll call on Senator Frentz to report the votes of the members voting under Rule 40.7. Senator Frentz.
Well, thank you, Mr. President. Senator Carlson votes aye.
Carlson votes aye. Senator Frentz.
Senator Clausen votes aye.
Clausen votes aye. Senator Frentz.
Senator Dibble votes aye.
Dibble votes aye. Senator Frentz.
Senator Diedzik votes aye.
Diedzik votes aye. Senator Frentz.
Senator Eaton votes aye.
Eaton votes aye. Senator Frentz.
Senator Fateh votes aye.
Fateh votes aye. Senator Frentz.
Senator Isaacson votes aye.
Isaacson votes aye. Senator Frentz.
Senator Kunish votes aye.
Kunish votes aye. Senator Frentz.
Senator Latz votes aye.
Latz votes aye. Senator Frentz.
Senator Marty votes aye.
Marty votes aye. Senator Frentz.
Senator Newton votes aye.
Newton votes aye. Senator Frentz.
Senator Pappas votes aye.
Pappas votes aye. Senator Frentz.
Senator Torres Ray votes aye.
Torres Ray votes aye. Senator Frentz.
And Senator Wickland votes aye.
Wickland votes aye.
Thank you.
Senator Jasinski.
Thank you, Mr. President. I report Senator Ingebrigtsen votes aye.
Ingebrigtsen votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Coleman votes aye.
Coleman votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Anderson votes aye.
Anderson votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Nelson votes aye.
Nelson votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Lang votes aye.
Lang votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Matthews votes aye.
Matthews votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Westrom votes aye.
Westrom votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Senjum votes aye.
Senjum votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Thank you, Mr. President. And Senator Newman votes aye.
Newman votes aye. All members having voted who have the desire to vote, the Secretary will close the roll. There being 67 ayes and 0 nays, the bill is passed and its title agreed to. Next order of business is the 13th order of business, announcements of Senate interest. Senator Champion.
Thank you, Mr. President, for the opportunity to speak during this time. Before I get to the heart of why I stood, I want to first recognize that the Super Bowl was yesterday. That's the first thing. And I'm proud to say that Tyler Johnson, who is from North Minneapolis, graduated from Minneapolis North, was a part of the Buccaneers team last night. So for his first year of becoming a pro, he landed on the Buccaneers team, and he is now a Super Bowl champion. So we are proud of him. And he's also a former golfer. So all you University of Minnesota folks, you have something to cheer for as well. Also, there's a second young man, his name is Antoine Winfield, who is also from Minnesota, who also played for the Gophers, who also went on his first year to Tampa Bay as well. And those two teammates got together, Tyler Johnson and Antoine Winfield, and they are both Super Bowl champions. So I want to pause and at least acknowledge that, because I think that's important, especially when young people do something extraordinary. So good morning, Mr. President and colleagues. It is with great pride and enthusiasm, I will say, that I rise before the body to acknowledge and highlight Black History Month. As you might know, the precursor to Black History Month was created in 1926 in the United States when historian Carter G. Woodson and the Association for the Study of Negro Life and History announced the second week of February to be Negro History Week. And the February timeline was chosen because it fell within the birthdays of both Frederick Douglass and Abraham Lincoln. That's why that week was chosen. And the interesting thing is that our country now celebrates Black History Month since February of 1976, but prior to that, as I mentioned, this was going on Negro Week in order to highlight the accomplishments of blacks. And so thousands of African Americans travel from across the country to see exhibits highlighting the progress of their people had since the destruction of slavery. Despite being held at coliseums, an overwhelming crowd of people, 6,000 to 7,000 folks would be waiting in line in order to see those exhibits because it was that important. And so the creators of Negro Week, that later became Black History Month, hoped that others would popularize the findings that they and other black intellectuals would publish, and urge black organizations and others to promote the achievements that researchers were uncovering by looking back at history and allowing history to inspire us to greater achievements. I believe, as the architects of Black History Month, that becoming aware of and understanding Black history going forward will both create and popularize knowledge about the Black past and value the prominent role blacks have played in shaping America's history. Because Black history is America's history. That's an important underpinning for us to understand. And my hope is that each person, whether you are in this chamber or viewing this speech at home, will commit to stretch your mind and comfort level to learn more about and value the contributions of Black Americans. My hope is that you would celebrate and appreciate the very contributions of Black Americans in education, medicine, sports, music, literature, ingenuity, and inventions, the military, architecture, space exploration, math, research, art, and teaching, and other facets of life. That includes even us politically, because most people don't realize that the first African American who came here to the Minnesota Senate was a guy by the name of Dr. Robert Lewis, who was in fact elected from St. Louis Park. Most people would think that person was elected from Minneapolis, but no. Dr. Lewis, who was a veterinarian, graced this body in 1972. The importance of that is simply for us to understand that blacks have excelled and have made tremendous contributions to life we all enjoy today. The tragedy is that so few of us know it. So the lack of information or ignorance can be a temporal condition if we assert ourselves to a higher calling of inquiry or exploration of information gathering. Knowledge can be accumulated expeditiously because we have access to information that is at our fingertips. That tool is simply called a smartphone. And I hope you would use it to expand your knowledge base. My hope is that you will also see the value in black history so that a groundswell develops amongst us, and that you would join me in making certain that black history is taught or integrated into the mainstream education of every school and university as a part of American history the rest of the year. And like Woodson, Carter G. Woodson to be exact, I believe that integrating factually sound research on the history of African Americans, black in this context, people in both formal and informal educational institutions would aid in the ongoing struggle to transform America and world social, economic, and cultural conditions. I hope you all gain enough understanding to appreciate the reality that blacks were not slaves who came to America, but were Africans enslaved in America. That is an important distinction and an important difference. And that you realize, that we all realize that when the Constitution in the preamble says, we the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our prosperity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. This preamble is our Constitution, includes black Americans as well, because we are too the people. So celebrate black history as American history, and learn of me and the rich contributions of black people during Black History Month and beyond. Celebrate our vast intellectual capacity and join me in forging a path forward that improves the future for all of our children by letting them know who they are as Americans. Marcus Garvey said, a people without knowledge of their past history, origin, and culture is like a tree without roots. Dr. Martin Luther King says, we are not makers of history, we are made by history. And former First Lady Michelle Obama put it another way. She says, you may not always have a comfortable life, and you may not always be able to solve all of the world's problems at once, but don't ever underestimate the importance you can have, because history has shown us that courage can be contagious and hope can take on a life of its own. So join me in becoming aware of the rich history of blacks, celebrating and valuing the varied contributions of blacks by committing yourselves to this lifelong journey of learning black history and the countless black men and women who contributed to and continues to contribute to the advance of human civilization. And with that, I would know that my good friend across the way there, Senator Lindsey Port, would also like to speak. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Port.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Senator Champion, for bringing this important month to light and working with me to make sure that we are highlighting it. I love to read. I especially love to read science fiction, and N.K. Jemisin is one of my favorite authors. She's the first black person to ever win the Hugo Award, and the first author ever to win the Hugo Award 3 times. After I read all of her novels, I picked up one of her books of short stories, which is entitled How Long Till Black Futures Month? And I love that title. Black History Month is an important time to highlight and remember the people and the events of the African diaspora. But now more than ever, Black History Month has to be about centering black lives and securing black futures. As we continue here with Black History Month, I think it's important that we look at black history as a way to guide our investments in black futures. a world that invests in Black futures. We can build that here. In Minnesota, we have some of the worst in the nation disparities between white communities and our Black residents in educational attainment, wealth, home ownership, and healthcare outcomes. With the murder of George Floyd, Minnesota became the epicenter of a worldwide reckoning with white supremacy and systemic racism. Black History Month cannot just be a moment for us to pull out quotes from Black leaders and pat ourselves on the back for a job well done. Black History Month must be a time for us to reflect on the people, the Black Minnesotans who built our state and contributed so much to our country, often sacrificing their lives for a freedom which they would never themselves know. So we have to acknowledge that our state has and continues to fail Black people in Minnesota. But the good news is we can change that. We can look to Black history to invest in Black futures. We can listen to those who continue to carry the legacy of the abolitionists, the freedom fighters, the reproductive justice leaders, to know exactly how we can support Black Minnesotans and Black futures. Frederick Douglass was a once enslaved Black man who became a leader in the abolition movement. And he was once asked by a young boy what they can do to help advance Black lives. And he said 3 simple words: agitate, agitate, agitate. One of agitate's many definitions is to stir up public discussion of. It's clear today that Black Minnesotans are heeding those words. So starting this Black History Month and continuing in perpetuity, we can listen to Black Minnesotans as they tell us very clearly what their communities need. We can hear them and we can act. Thank you, Mr. President.
Further announcements of Senate interest. Senator Rosen.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Senate fiscal staff would like to invite you to a budget briefing. It's this Thursday at 3 o'clock and Friday at 10. This meeting will include a discussion of the overall budget, fiscal notes, forecast, and the budget calendar. And the discussion will also include an examination of state revenues, aids and credits, E-12 education, and the state government and veterans budget areas. Members have received an invitation, and the schedule of the budget briefing should be in your inbox now. Thank you.
Any other announcements of Senate interest? Senator Gazelka.
Thank you, Mr. President. And before we close, Senator Bobby Joe Champion, you triggered something that I recalled from a church service I went to within the last 3 months, where the speaker talked about a number of Black leaders from the 1700s that I thought very informative to know. And just one came to mind. His name was Wentworth Cheswill. He was elected to office in New Hampshire in 1768. Think about that. Elected to office in 1768, and he held 8 political positions as a judge and other things that he did. But I think it's important because somehow we have forgotten much of the leadership in the North in the 1700s of many Black leaders, and that triggered that, and I wanted to mention that as very important as we're studying history, that we have room for Black history, that we have room for indigenous people's history, and that we have room for Western culture history, that it shouldn't be just the bad or the ugly, but it should be the good, the bad, and the ugly. We should be looking at all of it, and how that all fits together is part of who we are. And so thank you for reminding me of that, Senator Champion. I really appreciate it. So with that, Mr. President, I move that the Senate do now adjourn until Thursday, February 11th at 11 a.m.
Senator Gazelka moves that the Senate do now adjourn until Thursday, February 11th, 2021 at 11 a.m. All those in favor say aye. Opposed say no. Motion prevails. The Senate is adjourned.